Good morning. My name is Betsy Smalley, and my pronouns are she, her, and I serve on your board of trustees. I'm an older white woman with gray hair, and I'm wearing a black turtleneck sweater with a blue vest. As part of our services here at First UU, our speakers provide brief visual descriptions of themselves as part of our attempt to increase inclusivity for people with visual impairments and for anyone online. Welcome. If this is your first time here, please stop by the greeter's stand for your visitor gift. Use the QR code on the screen to access our order of service and to let us know you're here. After the service, volunteers will be available in Beach Hall to share some getting to know UU information. Whether it's your very first visit today, or you helped plan our 1963 participation in the March on Washington, please come chat with me or another board member to learn more about who we are and what we value here at First UU. Come find us in Beach Hall. I'd like to ask everyone to please take a moment to silence your cell phones. We have quite a few announcements this morning. The cookie fair is next Sunday. Bring cookies or buy them, or both, to help support our youth programming. Today is a busy day at First UU. Come see the Carpe Diem Quartet at 2 p.m. First UU members get a $10 discount. The caring team invites you to stop in Beach Hall to sign holiday cards for First UU staff. Brett invites you to the research kickoff tomorrow night to learn more about how they research and select issues to support. The next Pathways to Membership class is on Saturday. If you're interested in becoming a member, please join at 9 a.m. on Saturday or come at 8:30 for breakfast. You can register at firstuucolumbus.org/pathways. Finally, you are invited to a holiday party this evening at 5 p.m. Bring your instrument to play, a dish to share, and your dancing shoes to enjoy an evening of brass, bluegrass, and holiday fun. See the insert to your order of worship for details about these announcements, this week's events, and more. We encourage you to take it home, and we ask that you leave the cover in the basket by the door for us to reuse next week. We now invite you to rise in body or in spirit to sing our opening hymn, number 143, in the Gray Hymnal.
Not in vain the distance beacons, forward, forward, let us range. Let the great world spin forever down the ringing grooves of change. Through the shadow of the globe we sweep ahead to heights sublime. We, the heirs of all the ages, in the foremost files of time. Oh, we see the crescent promise of that spirit has not set. Ancient founts of inspiration well through all our fancies yet. And we doubt not through the ages one increasing purpose runs, and the thoughts of all are widened with the process of the suns. Yea, we dip into the future, for as human eye can see the vision of the world and all the wonder See the battle flags all furled in the Parliament of Freedom, Federation of the world.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Teresa Cooley. It's my privilege to serve as your developmental minister. I'm a woman in her early 60s with silver hair and a brilliant blue sweater and a purple stole. We begin this service by acknowledging that we gather on land stolen from the Wyandotte, Miami, Seneca, Erie, Shawnee, Delaware, and Cayuga people, many of whom were forcibly removed from Ohio. We support the Native American Indian Center of Central Ohio in their Land Back campaign, and we know we have more as a community to do to be in solidarity and true relationship with this land and those indigenous to it. So let us enter into the spirit of worship with these opening words. It is a new Jerusalem we try to create each Sunday, a city in which people of many faiths abide, drawn together out of happenstance and need. The faces we see may be strangers, but we smile and nod, for we know that underneath all beats a heart stirred by struggle and joy. The faces may be of friends, those we've supported and who have cared for us, those with whom we may have disagreed, yet still understand. This is a Jerusalem in which the walls come tumbling down, but the city still stands, made strong by stranger and friend alike who join in common celebration, searching for that greater glory that lies just beyond the open gate. So let us all rise in body or in spirit as you are willing and able. While our children meet in the back to prepare to bring in the light, please turn to your neighbors to introduce yourself.
It is now time for our children to bring in the light. Good morning. I am Reverend Kelly McNeil. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve this congregation as your minister of congregational life. I am a white woman in her mid-30s with long purple hair. I have rainbow Mickey Mouse glasses on today, and I'm wearing a rainbow stole. Our chalice lighting this morning comes from Deborah Burrell. Fire consumes and casts a bright light. May our chalice flame consume our regrets for the past, our fears about the future, and our worries about today. May it light for us a path of joy and peace.
Thank you, Avery, for your help lighting our chalice this morning. Good morning! Good morning! I'm Amber Scott, your Director of Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are she, they. I'm a white femme millennial with wild and wonderful wavy hair, and I am wearing a very colorful sweater. At this time, I'm gonna ask our ushers to come forward because they're gonna help me with this next part. Before our story this morning, I'd like to let everyone know about some special opportunities to help people in need this holiday season. Our mitten tree is back, ready to collect warm winter clothing items like hats and gloves and mittens of all sizes for the Clintonville Beechwold Community Resource Center. And each month for Ohio Read and Feed, we ask you to take home a green bag, just like this one, and bring it back full of much needed items listed in your order of service. Founder Jacques Angelino distributes these supplies along with food and books to around 85 Central Ohio families each week. And so the ushers are passing bags out. If you already know you want one to fill and bring back, you can raise your hand or make a little sign so people will pass you one. But they'll also be available hanging out in the gallery later if you decide later you'd like to pick one up. This month, we also have the opportunity to provide special personalized holiday gifts for more than 40 children and teens from 17 different families who may otherwise have no presents to open. Out in the gallery near the rainbow tree, Robin Lawson will be available to help you choose a tag to fulfill a child's holiday wish. And you have the opportunity to either shop for a whole family, or if that's too complicated to get the specific things on the list, you can also just purchase a gift card. Please bring back the unwrapped presents labeled with the child's name who you shopped for. And there will be a gift wrapping party after the service on both the 15th next Sunday and the 22nd the following Sunday. So we'll get everything packaged up and ready to go. Keep in mind, we need your green bag items and the gifts back as soon as possible so that we can double check our lists, just like Santa. And Jacques can get everything passed out to the families in time for the holidays. Thank you for your generosity. Today's story is called What We'll Build? Plans for Our Together Future, written and illustrated by Oliver Jeffers. What shall we build, you and I? Let's gather all our tools for a start, for putting together and taking apart. Let's build a door where there was none. We'll build a house to be our home. I'll build your future and you'll build mine. We'll build a watch to keep our time. We'll build some love to set aside and build a hole where we can hide. A fortress to keep our enemies out and higher walls for when they shout. But you don't always lose and you don't always win. So we'll build a gate to let them in. We'll build a table to drink our tea and say, I'm sorry. Me too, me three. We'll build a tower to watch the sky and other worlds that pass us by. Let's build a tunnel to anywhere. Let's build a road up to the moon. Let's build a comfy place to rest, for we'll be tired soon. Let's build a boat that can't be broken, that will not sink or be cracked open. A place to stay when all is lost, to keep the things we love the most. We'll put these favorite things beside the earlier love we set aside. I think that we may want them later, when times are hard and needs are greater. But first things first, let's build a fire, for we've planned a lot and now we're tired. It'll keep us warm like when we're born. Then we'll say goodnight as all's all right. These are the things we'll build, you and I. The end. In this story, a kiddo and their grown-ups seize life's endless opportunities and harness their boundless love for one another to make memories and build a shared future. Please remain seated with hands over your hearts as we sing I Know This Rose Will Open, number 396 in your gray hymnal, to sing our beloved children back to their families and out to class.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
During the month of December, our offering plate will benefit our congregation's ministerial discretionary fund. Each year, we ask you to help us extend care and generosity to members of First UU and friends who need it the most. This fund helps individuals and families heat their homes through the cold winter months, put food on the table when single parents suddenly find themselves out of work, and so much more. We've experienced an increase in requests for this support, so any contributions you can make will greatly impact our ability to say yes when asks come in. Helping others in their time of need makes this world a brighter, warmer place for everyone. Your gifts make this important ministry possible. In addition to passing the plate, you can text to give, scan the QR code, or visit firstucolumbus.org/donate. Thank you for your generosity.
Good morning. I am Bill Fiorini. We're here, the four of us, for a conversation from the heart. I'm a silverine, clean-shaven male in his 70s, and I've got on a tan sport coat, and underneath that is a red sweater vest. I'm joined here with my wife, Barb, and we are joined by our friends Ed and Julia Sargent. We are here to share our concern about the financial future of First UU. The budget of our church is underfunded. There is a large gap between what we as a congregation have been financially giving compared to the cost of what it takes for our church to provide its rich benefits. That gap is in excess of $200,000. Our concern about this has encouraged us to lead the Build the Bridge campaign, a challenge to us all to bridge that gap and allow us to place our church back on secure financial footing. Before I talk more about this campaign, though, we want to explain what motivates us to be so involved. Julia, share with us how you and Ed came to First UU and why you are so moved to be involved.
Hi, I'm Julia Sargent. I'm a white woman in my early 70s, and I have gray hair that's a little longer than it should be. It's longer than shoulder length. I'm wearing glasses, a black sweater, and a kind of multicolored skirt, and my pronouns are she, her. When I was first asked about joining this committee, I was really kind of hesitant because, to be honest, financial issues are not my strong suit. It was kind of a challenge, but as I've worked with this community and talked with many of you, it's been a great introduction to both the challenges and the potentials that are here in this community. Having moved 1,500 miles to a completely new community in March, we lived in San Antonio, Texas. The warm welcome that Ed and I received here has meant so much. The greeters, the staff, all of you have helped us feel so at home in a very short time. Kelly's Pathway to Membership gets a big call out from me. It was awesome. It really helped me understand how to become part of this community. Among the reasons for wanting to build the bridge, we wanted to appreciate all of you, and we really appreciated the opportunities that the church offers for engaging in meaningful community activities. We walked into Beach Hall and there was this smorgasbord of things that you could do to help the community, and not just this little, community of the church, but the wider Columbus community. There were just wonderful opportunities to get involved. It's really discouraging to try to address cultural dysfunction and urgent societal needs when you're on your own. It's easy to shut down and give up, and it's really kind of daunting to face. And if you have a community like this to keep you company and walk along with you and point the way, it makes all the difference. Additionally, the programs available here to engage in spiritual growth and to deepen our appreciation of the world's wisdom traditions seem particularly crucial in these times of rapid climate change and human suffering. This is a place where doubts and questions are welcomed as an invitation to deepen your understanding instead of being seen as a symptom of spiritual weakness, which I encountered in some other churches as my, pathway here. I was so impressed with some of the educational opportunities. For instance, OWL. I come from Texas, where abstinence only is. So anyway. Ed and I also wanted to show our gratitude in a very tangible way to all of you who have kept this community moving forward. You've invested years and years of effort, time, love, money to build this place and keep it going. With the political and cultural headwinds that are coming up, we really need UU more than ever. It's a sanctuary, and it's a lifeline rooted in reason and love. So now, I'm going to let Ed get a word in edgewise. I don't usually do that. I mean, we've been 49 years together, but you know, he can have a chance here.
All right, hi, good morning. My name is Ed Sargent. Pronouns are he, him. I'm a white man with gray hair. I'm not clean shaven like Bill, but I had a beard for at least 40 years, wearing a blue plaid sports coat. And I have several things to say. We're going to go back and forth between us, but to open up my presentation, I just want to mention that donating to this church to keep it alive going forward is important to everyone here, and it provides a platform to provide numerous benefits to the community as well, as Julie mentioned. Donating to this church in a major way also helps create a safe place for like-minded people to come together for support and spiritual growth. We probably all have a number of nonprofits that we consider donating to, such as NPR, but most of these have a single goal in mind. This church has limitless goals and limitless possibilities. Now, Barb would like to tell us a little bit about how this church has changed her life and what it means to her.
Thanks, Ed. I'm Barb Fiorini. I'm turning into an old church lady. White hair. And, my pronouns are she, her. I'm in my mid-70s. I came to First UU in about 1990 with my husband, Eric, and our 2 kids who were 5 and 7. I'd not been a churchgoer, but I wanted to find a place where I could talk honestly to people about my concerns. And I did all the things: choir, board, nominating committee, auction dinner, pride parades. Eric found a place that he could play his cello. And the kids grew up going to Sunday school, youth group, coming of age, and they even went to General Assembly before I did. To know what First UU really means to me, you need to know what happened about 12 years after we joined. Eric collapsed the morning before he was supposed to go to a convention in South Korea. And while he was in the hospital, the startup company where I worked imploded, and I suddenly became unemployed. After 18 days, Eric was sent home for hospice care, and he died within 3 days, adenocarcinoma of unknown primary. I never, ever imagined something like that could happen to me. And many people in this church held me up. They kept everything afloat, while I and the kids fell apart or ran away. I left the back door unlocked, and meals just appeared in my refrigerator. Marco even cleaned my fridge. Friends held my hand, they sat with me, they walked by my side every day, helping me with all the things I needed to do suddenly: insurance paperwork, paying my bills, transportation, cooking, cleaning, and they let me cry at church all the time if I needed to. It became my safe place. And my main message is that First UU has become my home, my real home. I didn't have family here, other family. My family was on the East Coast, Eric's was in Minnesota. Many good things have happened to me here too. About 8 years after Eric died, 2 mutual friends at church introduced me to Bill. The best day. And the rest is history. And Marco married us in 2011. And now we have, between us, 11 grandkids. With so many feelings of gratitude, and in a time of great political uncertainty in our country and with many financial concerns here at First UU, I want First UU to be here always, now and into the future, for our kids and for our grandkids. And I hope you can see your way to helping. And Bill, what brought you here to First UU?
I came to First UU at the invitation of a friend who I bumped into at a bread meeting. I found the folks here warm, even passionate about what they were doing. I joined the choir. I was challenged to shed old biases and to adopt wider attitudes. What I found here really was joy, and it continues. Switching gears, this year's deficit is large. It's more than $200,000. Now, how we got here is the convergence of a number of forces that has shrunk our membership and thus shrunk our contributions. I'm talking about the impact of the COVID pandemic, the recent church turmoil, and the general U.S. trend of diminishing church allegiance and attendance. This has happened at the very time the energy and attendance at this church is growing. We have many visitors and new members. Our energetic RE experience for our children and youth is exceptional, and we have established a safe and sheltering environment that supports many of us who feel threatened and suppressed in these troublesome times. Despite the financial crunch, our church will continue to move forward. Now, our board and our staff have taken up the challenge to find ways to sustain us financially while continuing to provide those services and experiences that are essential to our vibrant church life. But as they work on that, we must cover this budget deficit and provide a stable, secure financial footing. This year's church budget is more than $200,000 in deficit. And we know that the next 2 years will also need some support, somewhat smaller. Our Build the Bridge goal is $500,000 to be collected over the next 2.5 years. To meet this ambitious goal, we are asking for your extraordinary contribution support. We are happy to tell you that many folks have already made sizable gifts, and we have already made and received more than $356,000 towards our goal. We are smiling about that. So we're well on our way. But to meet our goal means that all of us have to reach outside our comfort zone in giving. We recommend that you consider a gift of 1 or 2 times your annual pledge. This could be made as a one-time gift or a gift spread out over the next 2.5 years. Some folks have simply doubled their church pledge to start soon. Now look, we know that not all people have the ability to give this big at this time in their lives. We have all been there, and we understand that. But please, give as you can. You know, this campaign has the energy and stature of a capital campaign. But we are asking you to invest in the church. First UU is not a building. The church is us, the people. Ed, does this ring true to you?
It does. Want me to comment on that? No. As Bill mentioned, we're on the committee and only been members of the church for a short period of time. It has been an honor to be on this committee and be involved in this fundraiser. And one of the things I understand is that a major part of this fundraiser and the financial support is to accomplish ensuring the ministers and staff continue to be paid at a comparable level of other similar churches. They work hard to make this a great place to worship and a great spiritual home for all of us. I have a couple brief stories I want to mention from my own experience I'm a retired physician and practiced for 40 years in San Antonio, took care of thousands of people of all walks of life. But there's a couple interesting similarities to some experiences I had with what we're experiencing in the church. One of the hospitals in San Antonio years ago was not doing well financially. In fact, it was doing so poorly it was going to have to close its doors. I was appointed chief of staff to help solve this issue. The corporate hospital company had planned to spend millions of dollars on improving the physical plant with marble floors, brass railings, big screen TVs, and make it a palatial place to stay. Myself and physician friends recommended that rather than spend so much money on the physical plant, that they should raise the nurses and support staff's salaries to equal or exceed the other hospitals in town. They took our advice, and that's exactly what they did. They improved the physical plant somewhat, but the majority of the money was spent on salaries for staff. We were able to hire quality nurses and quality staff. Doctors started admitting their patients to the hospital again. Patient quality improved, and the hospital kept its doors open. The second story, again briefly, in our own clinic, we were 10 physicians, and during COVID, it was a really rough time. We went from seeing several hundred patients a day to seeing a half dozen, and revenue obviously dropped off accordingly. We decided to keep our staff employed even though we had lower revenue. A lot of the clinics in town laid off people, but when COVID was over and people started coming back for health care, we still had our staff and were able to care for them like we were used to doing so. A lot of the clinics that laid their employees off struggled to find employees, struggled to find nurses, and struggled to find people to care for their patients. I guess my point of these two stories is, again, similar issues. Big organizations need money to run, but what really makes them run are the people, and the people are the one who provides the quality and sustainability of an organization. Again, I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to be involved in this church, be involved in this committee. It's given us a chance to know so many of you, and I hope to get to know you more. And now that we're members of this church and members of this community, hopefully we'll be around for a while to come. I'll send it back to Bill.
Thank you. And thank you, because you are the reason we are up here. You have given to us, and we believe in you. So when you leave, you'll find on the table some packets with your name, unless you've already picked them up, that explains again what it is that we're asking for and how you can help us out. So please stop and talk to the folks at the table. And once again, thank you so much.
This morning, our pastoral care listener is Pat Snyder. Pat, oh, right there. So if after this service, if you're feeling that you need to speak with somebody, Pat is going to be around to do that. We have a joy and a sadness in our community to share with you this morning. We send our caring thoughts to Deanna Davis, who said farewell to her beloved dog Baxter after 17 years of companionship. Baxter was blind, deaf, and the quietest, cuddliest little guy around. Deanna is heartbroken and will miss him dearly. We also want to wish a very happy birthday to John Friedman. He will be 90 years old. Well, he is 90 years old today. Happy birthday. I invite you now into a time of meditation and prayer with these words from Dory Summers entitled, "A House for Our Dreams." We, all of us, build houses for our dreams. The masonry and lumber, glass and tiles, a solid form wherein we see our hopes, a shelter and protection for our growth. This house shall be a dwelling place for courage, for integrity, for love, engendered, nourished by a family that speaks of we and means all humankind. These walls shall represent the privacy and dignity of individuals, the open doors, a welcome to all people, all ages, and all generations. The windows shall keep light of inquiry illumining from outside and within. May all words spoken here be born of love and energy rekindled in the hearts of those who dreamed this house, who plied the tools and paid the price to actualize the dream. May dreaming never cease for those within who know the world to be a troubled place, but dare to struggle with imperfectness toward that brighter hope, that better day. Let memories add warmth, a heritage, a quilted patchwork stitched with history of kindliness, of daring for the good, of funny moments, jokes and smiles and tears. This is a precious place, as every home that shelters those who love and strive and share. Its blessing is in lives that meet within, in living, learning, caring, sheltered here. Amen.
Thank you, choir. I have been thinking about the future a lot. Maybe you join me in this concern, even though I can barely stand about 5 minutes of news a day. My mind is constantly worrying with dire thoughts about what will happen in the next 4 years. And we need to do this to some extent to think about how we can be prepared, but it can easily tip over into the fantasy that we can somehow control the future. What do we bring to these thoughts? Spiritually, emotionally, rationally? It reminds me of two ways of thinking about the future, about how we think about the future. One is a bit mystical, and one is very concrete. And these two ideas I've been drawn to over and over again in the past years. About 20 years ago, a friend of mine who's a professor of psychology at the University of Chicago gave me a birthday gift, a deck of tarot cards. He and I had often talked about the connections between religion and psychology, religion speaking to the human need to make meaning of the world, psychology providing insight into behavior and perspective. And he challenged me to learn the tarot system and see what it could tell me about human nature and beliefs that people bring about the future. So I did. I started doing tarot readings for friends. I offered tarot readings at church auctions, prelude to this spring's auction. At one church auction, a member offered to give the church $500 if I would read the fortunes at her social service summer fair. Anything for the church. And so I did. I did not wear a turban. But I learned a lot about what people bring to such experiences and their longings for the future. Those of you not familiar with the tarot may know that each card signifies a particular archetype, a way of being in the world, an emotion, a longing, a desire. And so somebody comes to you with their questions, you lay the cards out in a particular order, and then interpret them for the person who's asking the question. And so I learned this process as a way to gain insight, as I said, into people's hopes and desires in their way of looking at the world. 90% of interpreting readings is about projection. How people respond to the cards says a lot about what they bring with them. There's some small percent of something truly mysterious that happens when I'm actually able to see things that there is no way I could have known. For instance, I did a reading for a middle-aged woman who brought all kinds of furrows in her brow, and all of a sudden in the cards I saw 4 male face cards, which is very unusual. And so I said, "Who are all these men in your life?" And she said, "They're my 4 sons. They came home and I want them to go away again." But mainly what I experienced were some quite vulnerable wishes for the future. One male friend of mine who had failed relationship after failed relationship kept coming back to me for a reading that he hoped would foretell a new and more successful relationship. And it never happened. Because what he kept bringing to the reading was the same inner turmoil, his inability to really look at what he was doing and bringing to the relationships that was unhealthy. So all of this is a long way round of saying that if we want to have glimpses into the future, we have to look at ourselves now. Our hopes and dreams, yes, but also our ability to learn and grow and respond to all that is around us. Our willingness to change or our desire to retreat into safety can predict not exactly what will happen, but our ability to respond with either adaptability or resistance. In other words, it's what we bring to this moment that can bring about the changes that we seek in the future. Not that we can absolutely control what happens, but we can do our inner work to show up for what happens. The way in which we respond can make all the difference. the inner life we bring, and the ability to imagine what might be. Recently, I went for my yearly visit with my eye doctor and complained about how my vision continued to get worse year after year, requiring me to get new glasses. And yes, of course, I do love getting new glasses, as many of you know. But it becomes an expensive issue. And so when I said this to my doctor about my vision, she paused and she said, "Teresa, you're a minister, right?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Surely you know that vision is not the same thing as sight." I had to ponder that for a really long time. Vision is not just about what we already know in the present, it's also about how we might imagine the future. Or as Jonathan Swift said, vision is the art of seeing things invisible. We can bring creativity and imagination, or fear and resistance to change. The choice is ours. Another way of thinking about responses to the future. A few years ago, the Harvard Business Review had an article about how we can approach the problem of climate change. One response is what they called the Malthusian response. I've always wanted to use that in a sermon. Named after the 19th century economist Thomas Malthus, who imagined a future of ever-increasing populations that would eventually eat up all of the resources of the planet. And his response was basically what we would recognize today as reduce, reuse, and recycle. Something we've come to believe in as sustainability, something very important. And there is another response that they termed the Solovian approach, named after the early 20th century economist Robert Solow. Solovians believe that the Malthusian thinking can be too limited. The other option is innovation. Think about the introduction of solar energy production. If all we did was just assume that all electricity comes from exhaustible natural resources, we would never have imagined that we could harness something inexhaustible, the sun. So both of these responses are important. Some things truly are exhaustible and we need to be cautious about their use, and innovation can take us into potential futures we may never have imagined. So we have now journeyed through mystical meanderings about tarot and the mundane economic theories about the nature of change. So what in the world does that have to do with where we are in our congregation's life? Here's where I'm trying to go with all of this. The future may look horribly bleak right now for this country. And this congregation is facing real challenges, as you've already heard. The question is, how do we show up for these challenges? And what do we want to be? Who do we want to be going forward? The issues that have been plaguing this church for several years now have given some leadership crises and worldwide crises like COVID, has meant that we haven't had the strength to really face them until now. And so when people first gathered together to talk about our budget and budgetary issues, we had a lot of Malthusian energy. How can we trim the budget? Should we assume that the trends of the previous years of reduced pledging units and dropping numbers will just continue into the future? All really important questions, and we are committed to addressing them. I know, we really know how to have fun at board meetings. And we also had some Solovian new energy. Can we test our assumptions about scarcity and find that, in fact, there are pockets of generosity already among us that haven't been activated? So instead of assuming the worst, could we imagine people to step up in a big way? Again, as you've already heard, and what an incredible response has been made in answer. Generosity abounds in this congregation, thanks to so many of you and the hard work of this wonderful bridge team. Thank you. Many of you know that the trajectory of my ministerial career took me from serving in several settled positions and then 11 years at our associational level. I loved my work at the association in many ways because it gave me a larger perspective, but it also felt gradually like I was becoming more and more distant from the actual nature of congregational life. So when I returned to parish ministry as an intentional transitional minister, it felt like coming home again. Even though I've moved from congregation to congregation, what I have the privilege to witness is the extraordinary, life-sustaining wonder of congregational life. It fills my heart and soul over and over again. In Arlington, Virginia, I served a church that had been traumatized by a charismatic minister that had committed both sexual and financial misconduct. They didn't know if they could trust one another, or the institution of the congregation again, or a minister, frankly. This was during the first Trump administration, so feelings were pretty low in general. But over and over again, I talked with people who were finding sustenance in the church. I talked with government employees facing terrible choices in their workplace who found in the congregation a place to examine their moral convictions. I witnessed congregational leaders who faced hard truths about their decisions and worked hard to repair and rebuild relationships. And I delighted in being able to do all the normal church things like dedicating babies and honoring the memories of those who had passed. The basic building blocks of congregational life that have within them the DNA that supports vital connections and the courage to face the world. In the last church I served in Pasadena, California, I experienced the same cycle of broken shards of trauma transformed into life-giving community. A quote from Boris Pasternak echoes in my mind thinking about these transformations. It is not the earthquake that controls the advent of a different life, but storms of generosity and visions of incandescent souls. Storms of generosity and visions of incandescent souls. And this is what I have found here over and over again in my year and a half with you. Earthquakes that seem like they will rock our very foundations, but also storms of incredible generosity, like those we have heard from today, that water the ground with much needed generosity. And visions of incandescence that seem to shine through the eyes of so many of you who understand the depth of importance of this congregation. Even in our day-to-day activities, I see this coming through. Just a few nights ago at our Sorrow at the Season service, I witnessed vulnerable and hurting people. Yes, we hear you. It's bringing their fears and their griefs and finding some solace and the courage to keep going. A loving embrace that felt like a hug. Friday night, there were over 100 people of all ages who came out on a frigid night to share good food and stories about their experience at this congregation, fueled, of course, by excellent pasta and sauce made by Reverend Marco and Barb Fiorini. But the warmth of that gathering was not about full bellies so much as it was from hearts brimming with the joy of being together. It has not been easy work that we've been doing as a congregation, and there is still so much to be done. But every day I see the glowing coal of our purpose that helps sustain us through disagreement and difficulty. There is a theological statement that inspired the very beginnings of Unitarian and Universalist thought, that there is more light yet waiting to shine forth from God's holy word. Or in more pedestrian terms, There is more promise in our future than our past may allow us to imagine. So how do we hold on to all this promise and generosity and incandescence? We keep showing up for one another. We keep believing in the future of this community. We invest the resources that we have, our time, our talent, our treasure, to help sustain us as we endure the buffeting winds of political trauma and fear and disillusionment. It is a human cycle we engage in over and over again, believing that a better world is possible. The poet Albert Rios says it so beautifully in this poem, "When giving is all we have." One river gives its journey to the next. We give because someone gave to us. We give because nobody gave to us. We give because giving has changed us. We give because giving could have changed us. We have been better for it. We have been wounded by it. Giving has many faces. It is loud and quiet, big, though small, diamond in wood nails. Its story is old, the plot worn, and the pages too, but we read this book anyway, over and over again. Giving is, first and every time, hand to hand, mine to yours, yours to mine. You gave me blue and I gave you yellow. Together we are simple green. You gave me what you did not have, and I gave you what I had to give. Together we made something greater from the difference. So may we live and find our being. Amen. And please join in our final hymn, number 140, Hail the Glorious Golden City.
Hail the glorious golden city, pictured by the seers of old. Everlasting light shines o'er it, wondrous things of it are told. Wise and righteous men and women dwell within its gleaming wall. Wrong is banished from its borders, justice reigns supreme o'er all. We are builders of that city, all our joys and all our groans help to rear its shining ramparts, all our lives building stones. Whether humble or exalted, all are called to task divine. All must aid alike to carry forward one sublime design. And the work that we have builded, oft with bleeding hands and tears, oft in error, oft in anguish, will not perish with our years. It will live and shine transfigured in the final reign of right. It will pass into the splendors of the city of the light.
Please take the hand of someone close to you if you are willing, or place your hand over your heart. Our benediction comes from the poet Aurora Levin Morales. Step by step, we learn to braid our paths, to trade our stories round the fire. Sometimes we help each other over stones, share water when we find it, handfuls of oasis dates. And sometimes we feel the clutching at our hearts, grow fearful and angry, forget each other and betray. We practice every day how we will ford the flood, hands around wrists, making a rope from bank to bank, a kinship deeper and more true than blood. What makes us chosen is that we choose each other, moving at the speed of trust together. And now let us please say our unison extinguishing of the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of vision. As we go forth, let us heal and transform ourselves and our world through reason and love.